Oh, hi, podcast
I had
audience.
that was like the only legitimate, I didn't see you there. It may ever happen. Are we recording? Yeah. Oh,
hello.
Oh, hey. Hey.
I wonder who the first person to use the "I didn't see you there" gag
Oh,
is.
Jesus. See you there.
Who did he not see there?
Who
was
stuck up on
it Pontius
Jesus?
Pilate? Like, what?
Oh, didn't see you there. Judas. Like, what? Actually, I called that
Actually, I did. I pretty
did.
much.
Oh, hey, saw you there. What?
Games, video 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 games.
It's July 18th, 2012, and Torchlight's just gone free to play.
This is Idle Thumbs 65. I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Jake Rodkin.
And I'm Sean Vanneman.
And we're back with a real podcast again.
We exist.
This is the Idle Thumbs podcast. Not the Idle Thumbs podcast.
Incorrect.
This is Idle Thumbs. The Idle Thumbs podcast is destroyed. We did a Kickstarter campaign earlier this year, as you probably know if you're listening to this. And the money we raised in that Kickstarter campaign, we have been and continue to develop a new website that's going to be really, really exciting. We rented an office that we are now recording this podcast out of. We've been working on upgrading our equipment, which has been really exciting. All kinds of really cool stuff. We're manufacturing all kinds of merchandise for our Kickstarter backers that we're plugging away on and should hopefully be going out real soon.
We helped put together 30 Flights of Loving with Blendo Games.
Yep. Yeah, 30 Flights of Loving, awesome indie game from Brendan Chung, Blendo Games. I did the music for it. It was fun.
You might have already played it. You're going to have it so soon.
Yeah, we are on the eve, I think, of sending out Steam codes for this for backers.
Yeah. I'm excited to replay it, actually, because I haven't played it since like the last build came in. I haven't just to like load it up in Steam and play it. I'm really looking forward to just playing the release version.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Chris did the music for it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's a lot of exciting stuff that's going on. We're still, as I said, we're still working on our new website, and that will be cool because it will be the host not just of Idle Thumbs, but also of 3 Moves Ahead, which is an excellent strategy game podcast that you should check out. You can find that at flashofsteel.com right now, but eventually it will be on idlethumbs.net. And also our upcoming book podcast, which is taking forever because we've been waiting for our new website to go up. So that'll come eventually as well.
And we're reading Julian Barnes's The Sense of an Ending.
The Sense of an Ending.
Yeah, The Sense of an Ending. Always get the on the.
The irony is that it's an incredibly quick read, and yet people are going to have had like 4 months to read it.
I know. We should have just opened with Infinite Jest.
Yeah, exactly. No alarms, nothing wrong, everything is fine. Yeah. So anyway, that's probably enough housekeeping.
Yeah. Video games.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to this new game, Armed Heroes.
What is Armed Heroes?
Well, I love
It's
Torchlight.
our sponsor.
This episode of Idle Thumbs is brought to you by Armed Heroes, a real game.
Well, it is a real game. That's the problem. If this wasn't a real game, it wouldn't matter that they ripped off Torchlight assets to make their free-to-play MMO.
Yeah.
So Travis Baldry, who's one of the guy, he's the guy who made Fate, if anyone remembers that game, and then also Mythos, and now he's, I think, the president at Runic Games, which makes Torchlight. And so this guy's made a lot of action RPG, Diablo style stuff. And also a lot of people at Runic actually worked on Diablo. And so they made Torchlight and it's awesome. And then this company, what is the name of this company? I don't know. Some company made Armed Heroes. And they just straight up took Torchlight stuff. Like Travis Baldry posted images of their assets and the Torchlight assets, and they're the exact same.
It's the same guy. Like it's just
Well,
the
one
same
of their
game.
programmers did voice sound effects for a special weapon as a joke. So like you use a weapon and it makes a voice noise. And his voice is just in this free-to-play iOS game.
Yeah.
Like, good. That is... At one point you can say we redrew, like we remodeled these guys, we redrew these sprites, but you can't say, oh, we took your lead programmer and made him re-record all that shit that he said. It's like, that is the most egregious one to me.
Yeah, right.
Because you can kind of like be like, well, we traced over.
I just traced it, I just really liked
Yeah, but you can't be
We got that guy in.
Hey, that's my voice.
Did you go record for that game?
No, they actually have professional imitators of
sound
that.
alike.
Yeah, we hired Wouldn't that be amazing, actually, if you went to that expense to duplicate another game without actually copying a single byte of data?
This is a shot-for-shot remake.
We really loved that weird, wacky weapon in joke so much that when we were inspired by Torchlight, we hired famous impersonator to, that would be really good. Or alternatively, if we couldn't get an impersonator, so you just pay you pay the programmer on the slide to record it under a pseudonym, where it's like due to weird non-competes or like union regulations, he had to actually scab for Armed Heroes. And
it's better if they just get like former world-renowned impressionist Dana Carvey to do
that programmer from Runic Games.
He's like, this is what it's come to.
Been working on this bit for 6 months. Been polishing it in the local comedy clubs.
But I mean, so
it didn't go over well there.
So
but you guys are going to love it.
The guy from Runic, though,
yeah.
So he made a statement.
Yeah, he went all out and he published all these things, and they're trying to get the game taken down by Apple. And then one of the the company that made this other game is called Touch Arcade, I guess. And
I think
Touch Arcade is a website that reported on it.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're right. You're right. It
Arcade's
is. I know that site. Why did I say that? The developer is called EGLS.
That's it.
Eggles.
Yeah.
Eggles.
So Eggles developer Serena Zhang said, quote, "They never straightly stole assets from Torchlight." And then
that's probably true. I mean, their game is surely not actually using the Torchlight internal file format,
right? Then what she tries to do is push it off, and
this is the go on.
Yeah. So, God. So she says, quote, "We sincerely hope that Mr. Travis Baldry can note that the similarities between Armed Heroes and Torchlight may be due to that we both learned from Blizzard, unless you are suggesting that the rest must not learn these advanced skills from Blizzard, which has long been one of the great leaders of the industry. Moreover, if anyone has ever paid attention to games with similar themes, he or she should have found that there are always several types of the same game competing with and learning from each other's game's designs, functions, and settings." So
she basically constructed a giant fiberglass middle finger and attached it to a rocket.
It's a really dumb middle finger, though. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's pretty bad.
But it's just...
Yep.
I mean, it's just
Some people might take
pull
inspiration
all the stolen
from
assets out and re-release your game. They're not even suing you. They're just saying, please take your game down. Oh!
Well, the funny thing
got away on this one.
The funny thing is that Travis Baldry pointed out that the actual hard part about making a game like that is just making the game. Like outsourcing a bunch of assets is like, I mean, making good art is not necessarily easy. But if you obviously don't give a shit about putting your name,
right? There's no actual originality to this
artistic integrity going on here anyway. So if if all you want to do is just fucking slap some shit out there, just publish a thing to a store. I don't know. I mean, I guess this is one way.
I imagine there are many outsourcing houses where you can say, we'd like a thing that looks kind of like a cheap Blizzard game. You'd probably get stuff back that fits that description.
You could have just sent the stolen assets as reference.
Right, yeah, exactly.
You're like, make lookalikes to these that are different. Okay, that'll be no money. Like, not literally no money. No money is what they actually spend.
They hand them back the exact same files the same day. They just email them back like FTP information to the same files they give. Here you go, free, gratis. All we ask for is that you mention our outsourcing company in the credits.
With your colleagues. Yeah.
You've in fact added _rev1 to all of these file names. That's next, actually, is when the outsourcing house gets thrown under the bus for this, where they are like, we sent a request out to these guys. That probably won't happen.
What?
Have you played Torchlight 2? Or is it?
I've played the beta. Yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm looking forward to the game. It's weird that it's taking so long, but I guess games take a while. Like, it was supposed to be out, I think, I don't know, late last year, earlier this year, originally. But I guess they figure now that it's past Diablo III maybe it's better to put some distance between the launch of that game and this one. And maybe the game's just not done. I don't know.
Well, there's multiplayer now. That stuff's just a pain.
Yeah. I mean, that was announced when they announced the game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but it's still one of those things that just there's a lot of work.
Oh, for
to go into
sure.
that
No,
aspect of
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, definitely.
Was that stuff in the beta? Multiplayer at all?
I'm pretty sure it was, but I didn't. The reason I don't know is because I didn't do it. I just played single player. Or like, I think it was there, but I just started a game and made it private and just played it. Which is usually what I do with Diablo 3 as well when I was playing that game. Although that game didn't grab me very much. It's funny playing Diablo 3 and Torchlight 2. Playing Diablo 3 now, it really makes me wonder what I would have thought of this game if I was the exact age I was when Diablo 2 came out. You know, like if I was just me but 11 years younger. If I was just turned the clock back and just this game came out in 2001.
Handed that person Diablo 3.
Yeah, because it's really, I've realized recently playing games that it's really hard. Like, I had the exact same experience playing Max Payne 3, which is, I forget when Max Payne 2 came out, but it was maybe like, 2003 or 4 or something?
Yeah, it was early mid-2000s.
I mean, you know, roughly a decade ago, a little less than that. And I had the same thing playing that, where by the end of Max Payne 3, I was so fatigued and so, like, not into just more running around and shooting a guy. And it's hard for me to, and like, this is kind of like the discussion we were having on a
one of the progress casts?
One of the progress casts, yeah, about
stuff?
SSX. Yeah. Where it's hard, like, there's definitely concrete things I can enumerate that I'm not crazy about in Diablo 3 and Max Payne 3. But it's also really hard for me to determine how much of my, like, the lack of those games' resonance for me compared to their predecessors is due to those things that I can concretely enumerate, and how much of it is down to the fact that I'm just a decade or so older and I'm just like a different person. I mean, this sounds way weightier than I mean it to, but like, you know, it's hard to look at things the same way you did when
you're in your late 20s, you start experiencing things not for the first time a lot.
Exactly.
You know,
right.
and that is just a thing you learn to do. And if you can get through that and not come out the other side cynical, then you did good. You know what I mean? And I
think that's hard.
The challenge. You know, I think about that a lot. Yeah. I don't have a concrete example of a game that I played recently, but that's interesting. Like, what are the things about Diablo 3? Like, what are the concrete things?
Well, so a lot of them are. So some of it, this is not necessarily that relevant to the game experience itself, but definitely I've talked on the podcast before about what I think is a really brilliant melding of narrative and gameplay in Diablo 2, where even like, you know, whether or not the actual content of the plot itself in Diablo 2 is particularly brilliant, I think the way that they integrated the narrative, which is mainly told in these interact cutscenes that just they're pre-rendered and they go, and the cutscenes are all about the character that you played from Diablo 1. They're about this wanderer who's always
they're sort of like mirrored story to yours.
I remember that.
Yeah,
that
and
was
like
really good.
Yeah, exactly. And you in the game are like lagging behind. So you never have the issue of dissonance between things you see your character doing in cutscenes and thing you do in the game, because the cutscene character is this other character that is always a few steps ahead of you. So you're always like just trying to catch up. Mm-hmm. And they're all tonally similar because they're all tonally about their character's story. The game itself is always you in town or in a dungeon. Like it feels really strong. Like it feels really contained and smart. Whereas in Diablo 3, cutscenes are just whenever, all the time. Like now just in the middle of a dialogue tree, suddenly a pre-rendered cutscene starts and it's just about someone talking to someone else. Or now it's about an angel killing a thing. Or like, it's just so scattershot and off the wall. Like there's none of that formal structure that Diablo 2 has that I think is really, really brilliant. Especially because you look at Diablo 2 and everything about that game, it's like, all right, you've got this strong Baroque architecture, you know, or Baroque's not the right, what's the, I can't remember the term for that architecture. It's like pre-Gothic, but like, you've got that really strong architecture that's all about like 90-degree angles and shapes and really clean etched stone, like cathedrals and all that stuff. Like the game's all about this, like architecture is this very strong, formalistic aesthetic to it. And then the game is divided into these acts very cleanly. And the narrative is told very cleanly in these like the slots in between the levels. And like everything everything feels of a piece in that way. Like, it feels like they're reinforcing the aesthetic of the game all throughout it. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but whatever. Like, it comes off that way to me. In Diablo 3, it just feels like same with StarCraft 2. The narrative is just this fucking slapdash thing that somebody wrote because they thought a bunch of badass shit would happen in a row, and then just kind of told it whatever way they just happened to. Like, now it's a cutscene, now it's a dialogue thing, now it's a this, now there's pre-rendered about this thing, now there's that, and like, it's so unmemorable. Like, it's all really, really, really obvious, and like, okay, now there's the girl, now she gets corrupted by evil, now, like, it's the same shit Blizzard's been doing forever, and probably Diablo 2 had a lot of that shit in it too, but they hadn't done it so many times yet at that point that it just had become this like incredibly overbearing formulaic thing that was not only formulaic, but also just told really inelegantly, in my opinion. Anyway, none of that stuff's the actual gameplay experience, and there's the gameplay is fun in a lot of ways, and I actually think the new skill system, I think, is really unjustly maligned. I think it's really cool, actually. The way you can essentially respec anytime you want. It's nice because it means you don't have situations like that I would run into in Diablo 2 where I'll level up 20 levels and I still haven't spent a single skill point because I'm afraid to make any commitments because then I can never change them. And that kind of thing is just silly. In Diablo 3, you lose something because you never permanently commit to anything, and you definitely do lose something with that. But I feel it's a totally valid design choice they made to allow you to just move that stuff around whenever you want. And it's funny because I know Nick Brecken totally disagrees, so it'd be interesting to have him.
We have a
talk
reader
about it at
mail
one point
that I saw earlier that we can talk about later that I think gets at the heart of that as well.
Yeah.
And
then so those are things that it's like, all right, I have opinions about these. Then the stuff I don't know what my opinion is just now it's just a lot, I guess, harder for me to do a thing where I'm just killing endless stuff for a million hours forever.
Right.
And that's something that's like not really specific to Diablo 3 at all. It's just harder for me to get super.
I don't feel like you're alone in. I mean, maybe we're all.
I'm not saying I'm unique about it.
But I do wonder if it's age and experience, or if it is just a broader moment in time where we've all played enough games to the point where, like, I don't know if it has anything to do with age, but at the same time, I don't know if somebody who's 19 is also sick of the same stuff we're sick of.
Maybe, yeah. Who knows? It's hard to really. Yeah, it's impossible for us to say, really.
Romanesque.
Maybe it is Romanesque.
Sorry, architecture.
Yeah, no, I know where you're at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
do you feel like if you went back 10 years and handed a young Chris Remo Torchlight, you know what I mean? Does that work that way?
Okay, so yeah, the thing I wanted to say, what's funny about playing Torchlight 2 is that it is so much mechanically less slick than Diablo 3 is. You know, like, it doesn't have any of those sort of audacious design moves that Diablo 3 has where they just rip out the, you know, again, like it or hate it, Blizzard did a fairly interesting thing, you know, good or bad, in totally changing a skill system that did work in Diablo 2. I played that game for a bajillion trillion hours. And Torchlight 2 doesn't have that, but the reason.
So Torchlight 2 still has the locked-in system?
Yeah, Torchlight 2 works the same way that Torchlight 1 basically did, and Diablo and everything. But it's so funny because when I played Diablo 3, I get this feeling that the game is just like collapsing under its own weight. You know, despite the design being very nimble because you can always change your skills however you want, I feel like the overarching feel of the game is this just relentlessly bogged down thing, and this just like sloppy narrative style, and this art style that's just a little mushier. Like, it's not an ugly, it's a very attractive game in a lot of ways, but it lacks that, like, for example, that architectural strong identity that Diablo 2 has. Like, it's a lot more just sort of general stuff.
It doesn't sound like it's as crisp in general.
Exactly, right, exactly. And then I played Torchlight 2, and despite being a kind of a less sort of polished game in a design sense, the game feels so much more lively, and it feels like the people who made it were less constrained by, 15 years of like iteration on the same thing. Like, it just, which is ironic because it is iterating more on the same line than Diablo 3
but I mean,
is.
iteration can kill that cohesion that you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
you
it's true.
fall out of love.
You
with
can
your
iterate
ideas.
away from the
Yeah.
rut. Rut's the wrong word, but like away from the core of the thing. Yeah.
We've been talking about that a lot, just at work, just creatively, just from a more of a macro view of how we make games and how
Sticking with something.
how you bring something to life. And like we make games in such a short time period, but like the act of falling out of love with the ideas or the philosophies with which you set out to make a game.
You live with it long enough that you forget like the core of why it was relevant in the first place and can kind of talk yourself out of it and into this weird spiraled off version.
Yeah.
And I think that happens. I mean, Andrew was talking about it. He's a programmer at Telltale through the lens of like The Simpsons, how Simpsons writers have to remember why a joke was funny like 6 months later when their episode is finally being drawn and put together, you know, after writing it. So, and I think that's like a very, very small version of kind of what you're talking about, but it's like 10 years on a game like Diablo, like think of how many days that is, you know, like can you go to work every day and every single with hundreds of people building architecture in your game, to use architecture as an example, and say, no, that doesn't fit the style. No, that's not Romanesque. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Do it like this.
Well,
and do that every day for 10 years.
The other thing about that is clearly has to be the case is that example implies that there is anyone who was on that game for the like. I wonder what percentage of human beings on the shipping team were actually on the team that conceived Diablo 3.
Yeah, it's like Magellan.
Zero.
It's like Magellan's voyage.
That's that's probably almost impossible to even say, because as far as I'm aware, there have been like multiple essentially distinct versions of Diablo 3 that are just dead now, like that are just gone.
But you do want to talk to the guy who was there the day Diablo 2 shipped and was there the day Diablo 3 shipped.
There are probably fairly few of those guys. I mean, I'm sure there are some.
Is there one? I mean, that is.
there's probably
question.
at least one, but probably not tons.
The stories I could tell you, but I can't bring myself to.
I know people who worked on Diablo 3 like a decade ago. Like, I mean, I've worked with people who have worked on that game years and years ago. What was I going to say? So here's a lot of what I was saying I realized was very vague, so I wanted to give a much more concrete example of a specific comparison point.
This one brick in Diablo 3.
That's apples to apples between the two games. So the music is what I want to talk about. So Diablo 3, the music in that game is I don't remember the name of the composer, but it has some amount of original music, obviously, but then it has a lot of reorchestration, like rearrangement and reorchestration of Matt Ullman's really iconic music from Diablo 1 and 2. And the versions, so do you guys know the Diablo music? Like the bum 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 bum, like, okay, well there's that, and then there's
I've played all, I mean, you know, I played Diablo 1 and Diablo 2, and I think it's one of those things that I definitely remember.
It's the kind of music where as soon as you hear it, you're instantly in the place. And in Diablo 3, they did the goddamn thing where they just take those lines and they just give it to like a huge orchestra and have this
they Hans Zimmered it?
Yeah, it's like what they did to Clint Menzel's music from Requiem for a Dream, where now that
or in the Lord of the Rings trailer, it's just like the entire string and like woodwind section all playing the same melody line. Which is just the grossest thing to do to a piece of music. It's horrible, and that's what they have in Diablo 3. Like they take these lines that are these really sinister, interesting, sparse lines, and they just blow it out beyond any sense of nuance or subtlety. They just destroy. There's fully a guarantee that people actually sent this composer as reference the trailer rearrangement of that Requiem for a Dream track.
I'm sure.
And like, do this to that, and think of how sick that's going to be.
Yeah. And then meanwhile, Torchlight 2, which is ironically is working systemically in a way that's much more directly in the line of Diablo 2. It has Matt Ullman, the actual guy who actually composed the music for Diablo 1 and 2, working on Torchlight 2. And it's the most interesting, like it's just wonderful music. It's beautiful. And the interesting thing about it is that it's actually much larger scale than his music for Diablo 1 and 2. So he also is going much bigger scale. He recorded with like the Bratislava Orchestra, and it's much bigger scale, but he's actually writing for the orchestra. He's not just taking something he did 15 years ago and just telling 40 violinists, okay, all of you play this at the same time. Like the music in Torchlight 2 is incredible. It's like,
no, it's great.
I'm going to use a horrible word, but it's like, it's got this sort of like magical tone to it. Like the thing that I think is really cool about yeah, fuck me. But the thing that I think is really cool about
magical tone.
Interesting.
I pre-regretted it and then I regretted it after I said it. But I think it is a fairly valid word if you go beyond the fucking connotations, because Torchlight has this feeling of almost like fairy tale to it, whereas Diablo is this very dark, sinister thing. Like Torchlight has this kind of like magical fairy tale.
I would use a similar word to describe it that I would use to describe an iPad.
Fuck you. Ugh, gross. And so he uses a lot of the same like, tools the people writing for Diablo 3 is. And I don't want to just dump on the people making Diablo 3 because I do think they made a really smart game in a lot of ways, but there's like something aesthetically going on that I think just really just misses the mark fundamentally. And
so this actually one-to-ones with what I was talking about with SSX potentially. But anyway,
probably
it sounds
so.
it does. Yeah.
But I can't get away from the fact that I still don't know if I would have felt this way if I had played this game at the age I was when I played Diablo 2.
The problem, I mean, it's hard though because, when you were 17 or whenever you were when Diablo 2 came out.
When you were 64. Oh, that's a Beatles song.
That's a Beatles song.
When you were 53. When you were out of Thumbs
Let's say I was
53.
53. Yeah.
When you were 65.
Anyway, when I was an age.
You just wouldn't have... Like, your critical studies brain has developed in a non-cynical but just sort of, like, mature way. Like, you can't expect... If you were a 16-year-old Diablo 2 player or Diablo 3 player, the musical lines are just lost their complexity. You would just be a douche.
I'm not saying... No. So, I'm not saying that to... No. I realize that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that because to call into question my opinions about Diablo 3.
Right.
I'm saying that to call into question my memories of Diablo 2.
Understood.
So neither my current judgment of Diablo 3 nor my judgment at the time of Diablo 2, but rather what I still now think of Diablo 2.
The real question was, when Diablo 2 came out, was there a 28-year-old gamer who remembers playing Diablo 1 who felt the exact same way about Diablo 2 that you felt about 3? That's the question. Yes. Is there?
I mean, it's a tough comparison because those games are so much more similar. Like, those games were made by the same team pretty much. They came out much closer to each other.
What was the time
I played both of those games when they came out. You know what I mean? Like, Diablo 1 was 90...
Diablo 2 was delayed like 4 years, though.
It came out 4 years after Diablo 1.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Diablo 2 was originally Diablo 1.
Diablo 1 was 97 and Diablo... Oh, maybe... No, it was only 3 years. Because Diablo 1 was 97, I think, and Diablo 2 was 2000, and the expansion was 2001. So they were only 3 years apart.
Oh, wow.
I definitely played both of them when they were new, for
Never
sure.
mind. They should just make their games 3 years apart then, apparently.
Like, Blizzard as a company puts things out frequently.
I just never think of... Like, I always just imagine that the Diablo 3 team is millions of miles away from the StarCraft 2 team, Like, I imagine it's somehow I imagine Blizzard is more of a publisher at this stage.
You're counting all the WoW expansions.
I'm counting all the WoW expansions and all that stuff. And, like, they're putting out a StarCraft 2 expansion next year, so, like, yeah.
Well, that's because they only shipped a third of StarCraft 2.
Well, it kind of stinks because, their games are... I don't like this about games. I don't like that those games that are just platforms now for content. I don't like that. I hate that, actually. It really bothers me. They're just games I won't play because I feel like when you make a game... When you decide as a company that your game's going to be a platform for content as opposed to just content, you lose... what you're kind of
that's the
lamenting.
whole Valve thing. That's games as a service. That's that whole entire attitude.
Yeah, they haven't screwed it up yet, though. Who's to say?
Well, some people think they have. A lot of people think Team Fortress 2 is just too much of a.
Well, those games are purely multiplayer. Single player games as platform are a little different. Or narrative games, I guess, is the way. Like,
but StarCraft 2 lives and dies as a multiplayer game, though.
Yeah. But when we're talking about new content coming out for StarCraft 2, we're not talking about it really impacting the multiplayer arena.
Yeah, we are. Well, I don't know if you are, but that's the thing that I'm much more interested in for sure.
Well, more interested in, but it's like aren't they release like can't you only play as humans and then there's gonna be Protoss and Zerg in the campaign?
This is the single player, yeah.
Single player. Yeah. That's kind of the way that's what I'm talking about.
What else is coming out in that? I don't even know what's in the next.
Like, how is that going to impact the multiplayer?
It's Zerg. Well, just like as when they release Brood War, there will be new units and there will be changes and they'll remove previous units that they don't think need to. Like, when they release an expansion, it's basically like a big reason to. It's like their big excuse to go and like take everything they learned about multiplayer since the shipping retail game and like take out the stuff that's not necessary, add in a couple more units to spice things up, like make big design, like huge balance changes to, address things that they perceive as problems, blah, 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 blah.
In the case of StarCraft II, it's the traditional expansion pack model, though. It's not actually game as service, right? People are paying money for a new hard good.
Yeah, it's still going to be
a
game to go buy. Yeah,
it's very similar to Brood War or whatever,
for sure,
in that case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is basically.
I was just delineating.
It's just there's two of them now instead of one. 2 expansions instead of 1.
I was just drawing the line between multiplayer and single player campaign stuff.
Yeah.
Like the idea of if I was only a StarCraft 2 campaign player, continuing to get like story content and single player campaign content on top of a platform is not something that I am particularly interested in because
you just don't like expansion packs in general.
They're not indicative of the game. Like it just depends. I mean, expansion packs generally come out for games that I play multiplayer, but that's why they're ever purchased by me.
Yeah, that might be difference in like what your sort of gaming upbringing was. Because definitely on the PC, the idea of an expansion pack that adds new single player content is like that's a really strong tradition.
Well, here's a good example: Minerva's Den.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
short story with Inside This World.
Mm-hmm.
Play it. It's like you pay about as much money percentage wise as game you would be getting if it was $60, things like this. Like that's one thing, but the concept of more giant chunks of the game can, like, I guess in the MMO model, more content, giant chunks of the game where the game is just infinite hours long. It's at one point I wonder what sort of interesting
that's not really
single player experience you can build that way.
I don't think that's okay. So without getting into whether StarCraft 2 is good or not, like that's not really what StarCraft 2 is. Like right from the beginning,
I'm not really
it was
talking
like,
about
this
StarCraft
is 3
2. I'm just
campaigns.
talking about single player game as platform.
Can you think of some examples?
I mean,
like
I guess
the closest thing I can think of to what you're talking about is like Assassin's Creed, maybe. I'm not sure what games you're talking about though.
Yeah, I can't tell if you're just grumping about a thing, but like
no, but you can feel games sort of going that way. Like
I feel that with online stuff more than single player. I don't really feel
like
that
I feel like
I feel endless sequels in single player, sure, but that's
like Arkham City is a good example of a toe dipped into this water of
Arkham City is actually a good example.
Yeah, of I have the single player game as Batman, and as I'm running through, I can see like little trophies and things that Catwoman can get, but I have to buy the entire Catwoman story inside of this platform to go play that, to play her
you
story,
could see
and then like get the Robin pack.
Yeah.
You could see an Arkham City world though where those little extra trophies for things you can buy will slowly like more and more of that stuff will just keep showing up as you're playing the game.
Yeah, more. Yeah. Well, there's 2 points, right? One, as I'm playing a self-contained single player experience as I am Batman inside this like city prison trying to beat Joker, I am constantly seeing tokens that are reminding me that I didn't purchase another thing.
Right. Okay.
So
yeah, absolutely.
That sucks.
I completely agree with you on that. Like, I had no idea that's what you're talking about.
Right. It just feels like when you start to say we have 3 franchises and we just keep putting out content with inside those platforms.
Absolutely.
And I could just see just Arkham being, you know what? Get Arkham for $20. But then over the next 2 years, we're going to keep putting out installments inside of that. And there was a time when I thought that was really cool, actually. And I think it could be because it does offer, if done smartly, a way to tell very specific, interesting stories.
Well, you know what
through multiple authors, which I think would be cool.
Well, you know what the
like
best
good
example of that is?
I was going to say GTA.
Me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
If GTA never shipped the campaign, but only shipped sort of like Ballad of Gay Tony, the biker one, yeah, and then maybe there was like it did like 7 of those chapters. Mm-hmm. But then if you went and bought GTA 5, you got the city and some stuff, and then things started to happen to you as you select, like almost like a detective serial or something, you know, like where it's like things keep happening to Marlowe in the same world, in the same city, you know, every time you buy a book for $5.
Isn't this kind of the same thing as what Arkham does, but less crass? Like, isn't?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It is a model for something cool, but I don't really think that's.
I mean, you don't. When you're playing GTA 4, you never feel like that's the case, though. Like when you're playing GTA, the straight game, just GTA 4, you never feel like someone's tempting you with in-game fucking purchases or whatever.
You don't get the cell phone calls like. Perhaps Gay Tony is calling you.
Yep, like little modal window pops up. Like, yeah,
because you know they
Microsoft
totally
points,
could do
this
that.
collect call that will unlock the Gay Tony thing.
collect
yeah.
call from an in-game character.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
you know, they could totally. I mean, they could totally insert it with inside the world without it being. The trophies
Well,
in Batman.
now that we've talked about that on Idle Thumbs, we've got 18 months max until
Before GTA
collect
5
call,
gives you fucking
you
collect
should also just
character.
announce Idle Thumbs Consulting that we're just gonna.
Yeah, we will
insidiously.
We will
plan-
predict your horrible future and you will profit.
Yep.
Like, heartily.
So will we.
Yeah,
We
The
hate
trophies of
ourselves
Batman are
and the
terrible.
world, and we're rich.
It's funny because Arkham Asylum had trophies in it, like it had the Riddler trophies that are just sort of traversal puzzles, I guess is the way to explain them. It's just like, how do I get to that thing over there?
Yeah.
And then it also had like history of, it was so good actually. There was these sort of like wall runes that had been put there by the guy who built the asylum. So you get the story of Arkham, the guy who built the asylum, and his son who lost his mind, and this how he never got over it and all these things. And every time you would discover one of those, you would get a taste of that story, sort of like very like, you know, like tapes in BioShock or something.
Mm-hmm.
So then it was all in service. And the Riddler stuff felt more kind of like, what's that game? Crackdown, sort of just collecting things.
Right.
But you would get little like snippets of stuff like that.
I have to say, collecting stuff, I am getting to the point where I am just starting to despise it.
Oh, I'm way over it.
Like, I mean,
Super
so
over
like,
I'm over
God.
achievements as
So
well.
I was playing, fuck achievements, Christ.
But yeah,
I
that
was
stuff
playing
all
Max
is
Payne.
in a-
So I didn't say anything about Max Payne 3, even though I brought it up. I don't understand. The Hauser brothers are enigmas to me. Like they go way out of their way to try and make a really convincing world and grounded story, even though the actual stuff that happens in their games is like the most ridiculous shit imaginable. They go out of their way to try and create this sort of Hollywood version of reality. But then they pepper it always with just like nonsense collectibles and shit. Like Max Payne is constantly tracking down like gold gun components that like you can assemble to make your gun gold, and there's no fiction, like nothing to do with anything.
God,
like it's got
it doesn't
the
have sick film noir narration over the top of that, where he's like, "I found another piece of my gold gun."
He's just a
I found this
the
gold
fact that
MP7. It was in the toilet. Like what? Like what? I don't like. There's
the
moments
side
in-
narrative that is implied that he is just a weird collector and sort of up late at night on Craigslist and eBay looking for.
But it's way worse. Yeah, I mean, it is exactly that, because there'll be the moment where as is this is always, I feel like this is always a scene in a Hauser Brothers game where the place is on fire or whatever, and like you've got to, it's like collapsing and you've got to get out of there, and and yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, I'm like climbing up the stairs, going into the closet, like, oh sweet, I found this gold grenade launcher. Meanwhile, Max is like, I had to get out of there, or I was done for. And I'm just, let me look around here, and the first time I played that level, I just straight up died. Because I was trying. And so,
like, wait, is it a slide for a Tech 9?
Yeah,
Get that.
Exactly. And then the even more ridiculous part is just, as with achievements, I think most achievements work this way. If you collect the thing, then you die, you still count as having collected the thing.
Right.
So it just
You
makes
can't take achievements away. There's no call for that.
exactly.
Yeah,
and so
can't be done.
But they're not achievement. They're not actually achievements though. They're just, the game itself has this collectible system. Like you don't get an achievement when you find one.
It has its own in-game.
Although maybe that is still necessary because you probably get an achievement when you finish collecting it. So as a result of that, they probably need to just apply that rule to all of them.
Right.
So you're probably right. But anyway, it just makes it even more ridiculous because now my fiction is just totally roll of the dice.
Every time Max Payne dies, a new weird metaverse, the metaverse expands one.
Exactly.
Where he's now in the world where he actually already had that piece in his pocket.
Right.
And it's not in the closet in the house that's on fire.
Now he doesn't need to look.
Yeah.
I guess weird. I thought I was looking for this. I guess that must have just had it in my inside pocket the whole time. Huh.
Anyway, sick. I was looking for that piece of my gold gun that was stolen from me and scattered around the earth by a master criminal.
Yeah,
and it's also
at least Arkham, you get this sense that.
See, I didn't like that stuff in Arkham.
But at least you get the sense that somehow
City,
Riddler put that stuff. You know what I mean? That matters to me. I know that sounds so dumb and it sounds so childish.
But do you actually like it in there though?
No.
Okay.
But at the same time, I feel like they went. They at least tried to couch it in. Oh, the Riddler was here before you, and he's left these puzzles for you because he's the Riddler and he's one of your villains. It's couched inside of a implied narrative that I can
Classic Riddler move to leave Max Payne those gold gun parts.
That's what I'm talking about. Who left those there? Does it ever answer the question at the end?
Of course
There's
not.
just some guy with a giant bag of gold. He's like,
he's like the leprechaun who scampers away. Like he's
You've
the
actually
G-Man
found
of the
all
X-Men
of them.
world.
The game just assumes that you have this narrative of Max Payne tracking this guy. So right before the last boss, Max comes around this corner and you see a guy with a huge like Santa Claus bag and a little slide from a gun, ding ding, drops out, and that guy turns, runs, and then you just get the complete bag of gold weapons to just wreck the final boss of the game. That's in there. I played Max Payne 3.
That is like a classic sort of PC, like 90s PC game move where suddenly like the end of the game is just, Mondo boss and you just have fucking crazy gun.
Yeah. Well, only if you track down that gold gun part stealing and leaving leprechaun character.
Actually, you know what's the funny thing about Diablo 3? There's a monster in it. This is like seriously my favorite thing in this game.
it farts banana clips from AK-47s.
Pretty much.
What?
It's called the Treasure Goblin. And when you... I think it's called the Treasure Goblin. Jake is amused and or horrified by
I
Treasure
just drank
Goblin.
water right before you said the words treasure goblin.
And when you shoot, when you attack, when you like zap the Treasure Goblin with your spell, it
Sweet.
Zap.
like gold and treasure and shit like pops out of him, so it's like a piñata. But like he fucking scampers quick and like he's got a lot of hit points. He's a hardy goblin, and so you're chasing after this guy and like trying to freeze him and like you slow things on him so he'll stop and like warping to him and again, and he's just like leaping around. And if you actually kill him, he like pops like a piñata and just fucking gold everywhere. And it's just like it really seems like.
Does it have a custom music cue when the treasure goblin shows up?
Oh God, I wish if it was just yakety
treasure
sax.
goblin's theme, right? Yeah, just like some man sort of like a sort of kind of
like a
rapid accordion theme
calliope,
shows up or
like
something.
merry-go-round music,
right?
Like just no, but it's just it seems like such a weird self-aware thing to put in a Diablo game where it's like, yeah, we know what you want. We know what's going on here. Like, we know what's actually going on. It's just you fucking chasing
it's one of those things
trinkets
where, like,
for
just
800 hours in a row.
The Treasure Goblin is just a metaphor for their entire game design? Is that like...
Yeah.
You feel like someone just had a bad run at some point and was like, God, I wish it was just a fucking treasure goblin. Wait, we're making this game.
Yeah.
Put a fucking treasure goblin.
Yep.
Give him a theme. Oh, we can't afford the theme.
Yeah.
Whatever, get the treasure goblin in there.
And it's the kind of weird, like, it's totally out of place in the rest of Diablo 3, which is an incredibly self-serious, like top-heavy, devoid of substance yet still very heavy experience. And the Treasure Goblin is like this weird moment of levity where it's Treasure Goblin.
Well, actually,
Treasure Goblin.
I feel like,
oh God, I could have had the worst day of my life. And if you just call me, beep, bop, boop, boop, boop. Hey, I heard, I'm really sorry, but this Treasure Goblin. And I will just erupt, and the day will be best.
when Diablo 3 was first announced, and it had, like, the foliage was blooming, and there were, like, colored lights in the game.
Oh, and people lost their
people
minds?
were like, fuck this. If you're like, and there's a treasure goblin who
There's a
dances
magical
around.
treasure. Yes.
And then he pops like a piñata and gold because those people be like, fucking yeah, that treasure goblin. Like, if you just went back in time and told those people who were pissed, like, let me tell you about the treasure goblin.
Was that the guy voice cast as Diablo expressing his
that's
satisfaction?
Just, those fans would be like, their worst fears confirmed by knowledge.
We know
of the
we
existence
think
of
the colors
treasure
are a little
goblin.
high contrast, but
Anyway, get this. There's this goblin who dances around, whatever you said, he cavorts or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe we should take a break.
yeah, I was going to say we need a break. It's a little warm.
Because it's a real episode now, so we break in
Oh, I love breaks.
Oh man, yeah. Video games.
We don't have shock stands.
it works.
We don't have shocks.
Was that just sharks from in Brooklyn?
Oh, yeah.
They don't have shacks.
We don't got shacks in here.
Yeah.
Donna.
That's Dan. That was like a burlesque.
No, that was Jaws.
Yeah, but
I
it
know,
was like
but like,
burlesque jazz.
The Jaws theme's just gonna make me laugh now. You may have just cured like 20 years of fear. Next time I'm in a pool and somebody goes, Donna.
Next time I'm
going to take my pants
Jaws.
Next time in Jaws Grasp. JAW''S.
The grasp of Jaw.
Yes. Within Jaws' grasp.
Next time I'm in
the shark's name was Jaw, right?
Jaws,
Yeah.
Jaws, grasp.
The shark's name was Jaw. Jaw's Revenge.
They never called him Jaw in the movie.
He was credited as Jaw.
That's where 90s hip-hop artist Ja Rule got his name.
He's named after the shark Jaw. The famous Jaw.
From Jaws. Yeah. Everybody knows this.
Well, the full title
Where do you think
was...
Rastafarianism comes from?
Exactly. Please.
It was called Jaws Movie.
Jaws Big Movie was the original title. But Spielberg thought
Jaws
better.
Day Out. Yeah.
Those are all true.
Important if true.
Important if true. Jaws Checks In.
Was Jaws originally named Jaws Checks In?
Was Jaws originally named Jaw?
No, it definitely wasn't.
Was Jaws originally named Jaws Checks In? This issue's flat off the shelves, guys. Solid cover story. Yeah, launching that Idle Thumbs magazine with the Kickstarter money was maybe a misuse of funds. It's not doing very well.
Issue 1.
Issue 1. Huge scoop this month, you guys. Was Jaws originally titled Jaws Checks In?
Page 75.
It's actually grammatically incorrect if the shark's name was Jaw.
Jaw? Yeah, that's why it definitely wasn't called that.
Yeah.
It was no.
Oh, it was
the
called
answer is
Jaws Checking In.
Jaws Checking In.
Oh, I get it. Not a possessive S, a contractive is.
Yes,
exactly.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's short for Jaw is.
I go. Yeah.
That's what he's doing.
I get it.
He's checking in.
To the Shark Hotel. Yeah. No, just a hotel.
Have you seen Dunstan Checks In?
Yeah.
So is he wearing the little bellhop hat, or what's the deal? Is he a guest, or is he an employee?
Dunstan, it's a good question.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about Dunstan Checks In.
What is that?
It's about a monkey that stays at a hotel.
I think Dunstan may... Oh, God, this is tough.
True story?
Yeah, you've never seen Dunstan Checks In?
It's a film.
The kid who's in Dunstan Checks In is like an actor now, right?
He probably was at the
by
time.
definition,
Hold on.
yes.
The podcast hasn't started yet. We're looking this up. This is a really good cast. Jason
Dunstan.
Alexander.
No, this is a bad
No,
cast.
listen
Oh,
to
you
this.
mean in the film? Video game.
You said you interrupted yourself when you were talking about Max Payne 3 by talking about the Treasure Goblin. Do you remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I just had to bring it back around to the Treasure Goblin.
I don't actually remember what the connecting line was between those things, but yeah, I like.
You don't remember the seg to the Treasure Goblin?
No, I don't. I don't remember that seg. But the overriding thing I was left with Max Payne 3 playing through it is how. Because there's a whole thing with all, there's the golden guns that I was talking about earlier, where
Sweet.
it's just there's just.
I think that's how you got to the Treasure Goblin.
Yeah, I think it is. Right? No, you're right. It is because there's just this,
He was
like,
distributing those within Max Payne 3. It's a crossover event.
yeah, because there's this fundamental like disconnect between Max Payne, like what
Max Payne
he's
with Treasure Goblin DLC.
oh man,
You could be picking up these gold gun pieces if you had. If you bought this Treasure Goblin.
right? Exactly. Yeah, you can either
You just hear. Sorry, we were distracting ourselves for a second because the idea that you walk past the gold gun and you hear the laugh of the Treasure Goblin, he's just like he's always 50 steps ahead of you. The Treasure Goblin DLC actually deploys pre-rendered cutscenes made by Blizzard.
I was just gonna
to
say
tell the story of the Treasure Goblin, who's one step ahead of Max Payne.
it's just 3 minutes of the Treasure Goblin just fucking scampering across the desert.
So you're like, wait, it looks like he's in some sort of like closet with slatted doors.
He's got louvered
Dropping off a
windows.
piece of that like offhand grenade launcher thing. Like, okay, so if I see that closet, I bet the Treasure Goblin was there, and I'm gonna get that gun. Yeah, it's good.
Well,
The Treasure Goblin story echoes the events of Max Payne's life.
When Max Payne dreams, he sees the Treasure Goblin bounding across the shipping containers from the dreams of Gordon Freeman and Master Chief and
Does
whoever.
Max Payne dream about shipping containers?
Yeah, didn't we talk about this like last week?
Oh, right. Yes.
The
Jesus.
secret.
You should really listen to our progress casts. They're great.
Jake was waiting for real Idle Thumbs. Jake didn't listen to the progress casts. But yeah, so there's that. There's like all the gold gun stuff where it's just Max Payne's narrative and what he's actually doing running around is like nonsense. But there's a way more fundamental version of that stretches across like pretty much every moment in the entire game.
Called the story.
Which is shut up, fuck you.
Sorry.
Which is that.
Go ahead.
So Max Payne in the game is like, you know, he's not a police officer anymore because he killed him. I guess that's not really why. I guess it's because he was bad at it, apparently, according. Like, I don't even know why. Like, it's crazy to me that he's not.
You were a shit officer, Max. I was.
It's weird that he's not just in
the guy named
8
Max
million
Payne.
jails for like
Battery, perhaps.
what?
I mean, just Max Payne. You mean you get pulled over by a cop named Max Payne? Just throw your keys in the dash and
right, exactly.
cross your toes.
Yeah,
like,
right.
yeah.
Just slam your own head into the fucking windshield.
Yeah.
So he's working with some guy as like a merchant, like not like a private bodyguard guy, right? Like he'll work for rich people and protect them, and because he's no longer a cop, he's been disgraced. Now he's just some washed up.
Fell.
Well, he fell after the fall of Max Payne. So now he's just some washed up asshole who does jobs for rich fucks in Rio de Janeiro or wherever Brazil, wherever he is, and
Takes place in Rio?
yeah, I think so.
Oh,
as
that's
I
cool.
recall. And most of it does. There's flashbacks to New York, and New Jersey, and the entire time there's like this overtone of, God, I'm such a fuck up. Ugh, can't do anything right. Fucked it up again, Max Payne.
He says
like,
that?
Basically, he spends the whole game saying that. Meanwhile, as he's saying this, you're like going into slow motion, capping 18 guys in the head as you like jump off a roof. Like as you fall, you're like blowing up a barrel that causes a building to fall down onto 18 guys pursuing you. God, I'm so shitty at everything. I'm such a fucking idiot.
The thing that got him kicked off the force, well, he vowed at that point to never kill again. So he is a huge fuck up now.
Okay, you don't even know how right you are, because one of the other things guess all I'm good at is just killing people. Guess that's all I can do after all. I'm just a shitty killer. Like, he talks about that the whole game. But there's moments where
no human being has
So you were just some
dispatched
some homunculus putting Max Payne through his 7 circles of hell. Then.
Right, yeah. And there's it reaches a ridiculous tonal crescendo where you walk into a warehouse and you're, you know, in the cutscene, you're sneaking up on guys. Of course, you as the player have no control over this. Max Payne just decides to sneak up on guys. And he's like, if I could just get through here without making any noise, which, you know, as the player is bullshit, because Max Payne never saw a living person that he didn't like. You know Chekhov's gun? In Max Payne,
and
it's just Chekhov's human.
Max Payne is the gun?
No, every single living person is Chekhov's human.
I get it. They're hanging on the mantle.
If that person appears,
they will be killed by Max Payne. Yeah, exactly.
Understood.
Like, if a person appears in any act, they will be killed in that act. That is Max Payne's human.
That's kind of a less dramatically taught Chekhov's gun.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
If a human appears, they are dead.
Yep.
Okay.
And so,
it's kind of a weird Schrodinger's.
No, it's not Schrodinger.
Really.
That human has one state and it's dead. It's just delayed, maybe. But or no. So you sneak up with these guys, and he's like,
"Sweet,
just got to not make any noise." And then, you know, again in the cutscene, you trip over like a gas canister or something, and it falls over and makes a noise. And he's like, "There it is again, that trademark gracefulness I'm known for, fucking it all up." And so you make the noise, and the guys all turn around and look at you, and then like
in the cutscene.
Well, so then it switches back to player control,
right.
And then at that moment, the game just puts you into slow motion itself, and then it gives you it prompts you basically to shoot this thing that always happens in movies and games that I don't think has ever happened in the history of the world, where you shoot like a winch and then you grab the hook on the end of the winch.
Counterweights?
Somehow it just counterweights.
So you like Errol Flint his way out of there, basically?
Yeah, well, not out of there. So then as you're slowly moving up, he takes out his pistol as this is happening. In one motion, takes out his pistol, shoots the thing, grabs the hook, goes up, headshots, 18 guys. leaps off the thing, gracefully lands on a catwalk, headshots another guy just standing right in front of him, segues right into like sticky cover into the grating behind the catwalk, peers over, fucking switch to sniper rifle, bam, 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 3 guys on the other end. Everyone in the room is dead.
He did trip on that gas canister.
Yeah, exactly. What a fucking klutz. What a boner of the year, am I right? Like, I just don't understand how people writing this game think that that's...
You know what's funny?
What? It's like,
I mean, it's only worth a new Idle Thumbs episode if we make a Far Cry 2 comparison. But that is exactly what would happen in Far Cry 2, except you would have caused all of it.
Yeah. None of it would have been lined up for you by a designer.
Like, exactly. Like, him tripping on the gas can
you technically,
is a grenade rolls down a hill. Like, that's why we say that sentence.
Yeah. And in Max Payne, like, in Max Payne 3... Sure, I'm still the one who is successfully executing those headshots, but the game is lining up the bowling pins right in a row for me. Like, they're straight down the lane in single file. Like, all I've got to do
is... That's kind of hard to do.
That's kind of
really hard to knock down 10 bowling pins lined up straight in a row.
Okay, well... Sorry, Jake.
If you hit them straight on...
That's a pretty forceful bowling ball that's going to just go through all of those in a row without angling off on one of the impacts. I mean...
We'll test this out.
Good point, Jake.
But what was funny is I was actually explaining this to Adam last night about I was playing Spec Ops: The Line, and he was watching me play, and he said, "You just can't go anywhere." He's like, "They just kind of like put guys in your way and you shoot them in the face."
Yeah.
And I was playing on PC, and I haven't really played a shooter on PC other than TF in a long time. It's a third-person shooter, and I just forgot how easy it is to shoot guys exactly where you want to shoot them with a mouse.
Yep.
Like, it's been, years since I really have done that. And, I was like, he's like, that's why, I just like, because he's played Skyrim. That's like the only game he's played in like 5 years. And,
he played Ocarina of Time on his 3DS for about 4 hours.
And then we gifted him
he got Skyrim and was like, whoops. But anyway.
But, he's like, that's why, I just can go places in Skyrim and do things and things happen to me. He's like, this is just the artifice. He's like, why? He didn't use the word artifice, but they're just putting faces in front of you and you click on them.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, but I mean, the gameplay is sort of about like the scenario. How do you click through it the right way? And I found myself defending this third-person shooter.
Right.
And I had read Tom Bissell's article from Grantland.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually didn't read points like 11, 12, or 13.
Oh, really?
They started to get spoilery for what was going to happen in the game.
I just read through it.
Yeah, so I stopped.
I haven't played that much either.
Because I wanted to give the game its due.
Sure.
Especially because people have been talking about how it's
yeah.
There's interesting things going on in the game.
Yeah.
And I think we're both kind of in the same place with that, where
I think you're probably farther than I am. Or you mean the same place, like
just sort of. I know that, mentally, where I know this is supposed to be interesting. There's some stuff here. People have been talking this game up a little bit about how it's a little different than a shooter.
I'm not quite feeling it yet, but like, yeah.
I shot a guy that I realized I didn't have to. That's the thing where I went like, oh, okay, maybe this game is about something.
Oh, I don't think I've gotten that far yet. So you're farther than I am. Bro.
Yeah.
I'm not very far.
Because
this is a stupid conversation.
Right. Yeah, no, and I think the game is sort of about the choices that you make as a habitually trained first-person shooter player or a shooter player.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's what it's about yet, but it seems to be... It's executing on that stuff decently, except the first time they present it to you. And I really like the fact that... So you come up over... Like, you sneak up on 3 guys, you shoot 2 of them, you realize one of them's an informant or something. He turns and says, don't shoot. And, like, right then, it just has a reaction or just a reflex, like, bam, like right in the head. And I walked up, and my buddies were like, oh, you just killed him. Why did you do that? And to which I said... I like the fact that it was presented super subtly. It was presented just as a gameplay experience, and it didn't do actually the thing that The Walking Dead does, which is like that sort of like it didn't do any of that stuff. So I like that it didn't do any of that stuff in Spec Ops. I thought that was bold, but
yeah, that's hard to do because
the narrative
does it the other way. Everyone now does it like Mass Effect. I guess was one of the games that really standardized the notion of like being in the gameplay situation, but then the game stopping to explicitly make sure you know it's a prompt. Where like in Mass Effect 2, I guess is when they had those moments where you could interrupt to do the renegade thing or let it go and do the paragon
People
thing.
are very concerned that someone playing a game will not notice the fact that the game is in fact an interactive experience when you come across a seamless interactive experience.
Right. Yeah.
Especially when it forks. I mean, man, like the amount of conversations we had on forking narrative with
Walking Dead.
Oh yeah, it's just I don't want to talk too much about that game, but the amount of conversations just will people get it? Will people realize there was another path? Is sort of this horrible catch-22 of presenting two paths because people end up playing the game and by virtue of it existing in a world of linear time, it's just you get a linear story. So I like that Spec Ops didn't say like, I mean it did though. So after I killed him, it's like, you killed him. Why did you do that? I obviously can't say why I did. You know, I don't have any, there's no dialogue prompts in the game. And I think it was, I'm not super stoked in how that stuff is couched narratively and how that stuff is presented just in its tone and how like the dialogue's not super subtle and it doesn't actually start a conversation.
Changes a lot over that.
That's what
we
that
should
Grant
probably
article
we
said.
should maybe table this until we've played more of the game.
We shall.
Yeah.
But it seems like I think I see where the twist is. Like it's
sure.
You know, I killed a civilian accidentally and I think there's some interesting stuff there. Like I killed a civilian. I'll stop talking about it after this. But I was in this sort of apartment complex or like it looked like kind of luxury condos of all places. And I was sneaking up on this like turret nest and I was going through sort of what looked to be a place that like squatters had set up. There was candles and tarps and they clearly made like these little makeshift rooms. And I hear the gunfire and then a shadow, like a figure comes bursting out of a tarp and running at me and just bam, like one shot, just down. And it's a woman. And then I keep going and I finish that scenario and people start coming out of there, like wherever they've been hiding after I've defeated against my guys and like, we got to get out of here. It's like the locals are pissed. And now I'm kind of wondering, was it because I accidentally shot that woman? Like if those are connected,
right. Or if that's,
we just would have left silently.
Yeah.
Had I not accidentally killed that woman. It actually reminded me of the gun parts thing. We were talking about the gun parts. It's like I shot her and then instantly died. Like right after that, I shot her, went, oh God, I feel terrible. And I was thinking about it, like, oh my God, like I felt, it was good. It was a really impactful moment. Like I felt awful, but I instantly died and then I respawned and the woman wasn't a choice anymore. She never came out of the thing.
Oh, crazy. so they're keeping you from reloading the game and changing what you did, basically, presumably.
So that makes me think there is causality, but they're doing the thing that I think actually The Walking Dead does well, which is you make some choices and you don't really know how they're cascading out. So I'm just by presenting me A, like make choice A and then present me B, whether B is dynamic or not, I'm still building meaning into that.
Right.
So that is really great, I think. And I think hopefully if we keep playing the game more, we'll be able to answer whether that's successful or not. We'll talk about this. We'll talk about Spec Ops when we actually have opinions. Yeah, let's do it.
There's no bad reader mails.
Well, one we don't have a good response for.
What, only bad readers? Is that what you're implying?
No, I wasn't. What?
I thought that's what you were implying.
No. There's no bad reader mails, only bad responses from us.
That's true. That's definitely true.
This is one that the answer might be no. And
it's always anyway, this guy wrote 15 paragraphs. No.
So he writes in, he says he's writing.
Well, his question was the original title to Jaws Check In?
It's not that far off.
No.
So Jordan Stewart writes in and asks, he says he's writing an adventure short story and he started watching Indiana Jones for some of his research, for his inspirational. And he goes, I thought of a video game to play that might also help. And the quickly into mind was another trilogy, Uncharted. I feel that Uncharted series is the closest thing to do Henry Jones Jr. justice, but I did not recall a single reference or tip of the hat to him. Growing up, there were a lot of movies I wanted to see as video games, but usually ended up disappointing. Street Fighter, for instance. Are there any solid games you can think of that are a spiritual embodiment of some great story on film or television, but are not of direct relation? P.S. This is why I wanted to read this one. The Wizard, the 1989 film, is called Joystick Heroes in Germany.
You just wanted to use this guy's question as a way to insert this tidbit, this funny little factoid that he told us.
Yeah.
All right, good.
You can cut it all the way down to, hi, Jordan Stewart writes in. Did you know The Wizard, the 1989 film, is called Joystick Heroes in Germany? Jordan Stewart, Santa Clara, California. Thanks, Jordan.
Now I know, and now all of our readers know. Now you know as well, readers.
So what was the question specifically?
Are there any other solid games you can think of that are a spiritual embodiment of some great story on film or television, but are not of direct relation?
I guess all video games.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say.
If you like
when they're
aliens,
not,
if you like Aliens or Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, have I got a medium for you? It's called video games. Buy any of them.
And I think what's funny is games that are not systems.
Oh wait,
driven.
I really like Blade Runner. What?
I'm going to take you to the theater. You'll be happy.
What? The theater.
Another medium. I was like obviously, I should give him video games as a medium that he would enjoy. He says he likes Blade Runner, just aesthetically, because he can go play System Shock.
What is the theater?
I can take you to like the theater.
Why would you do that?
Of the mind? Like,
Because
what are you talking about?
I would take you to see West Side Story or something. That was a joke. It was a bad joke.
No one.
It was definitely a bad joke.
I could have picked another. I should have picked a different medium. Reader mail's off to a good start. No. Okay. Sorry, Jordan.
Oh.
I mean, probably, but the
point
I
I was
feel
going
like
to
if
make
anything, there's
before
too
he made
much of that already.
Yeah,
I was trying to see if I could come up with a game experience that evokes a feeling similar to a film, like because that's more interesting to me, I think, than literally just like Uncharted. Yeah, it is. Clearly takes a page from the book of Indiana Jones, but that's because that's exactly what the pitch of that game probably is, which is it's like Indiana Jones, but it's a game.
Well, I think the point to that, just Jordan, had they made an Indiana Jones reference in Uncharted, that would have been insufferable.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Uncharted doesn't really capture anything about what I like about Indiana Jones.
Same.
Except for some of like the vistas and stuff. Like other than that, I don't think the character really evokes him very well at all. I don't know. Maybe he's not supposed to.
I thought the beginning of Uncharted 2 actually felt more like that than any other aspect of any of those games, but that's just because I was actually interested in the story in it. Also, I had just seen the fourth Indiana Jones movie, which was a horrible, horrible thing. Yeah. So then playing the beginning of Uncharted 2 when he's on the train and it's cross-cutting back and forth, I was like, okay, a competent person is telling an adventure story.
Right.
Maybe this is what Indiana Jones feels like, but yeah. Man, Indiana Jones 4 is bad.
That's true.
There's probably a lot of games that encapsulate the feeling of Indiana Jones 4.
Many.
Yeah.
Like Sim Ant really
what?
It's really evocative of that scene in Indiana Jones 4.
Were you hiding in the fridge during the nuclear
No. When all of those huge bugs come out and eat a guy.
That's true, Jake. Bugs eat people in video games all the time.
Dude, in Sim Ant, bugs eat bigger bugs. Bugs eventually probably eat that cat.
Just like in Indiana
I should have
Jones?
Sim Ant, you play as an ant colony. You drive the owners out of their house so they get crazy eyes. We've talked about this.
Yeah, that's right.
Jake, let me take you to the theater. Sorry, I thought that's what we say. Now.
In the theater, they just unleash thousands of bugs.
You guys want another reader mail? Let's get another reader mail, I think. This is the one that I think we should talk about.
All right, go ahead.
This is from
You gotta stop giving these prefaces, because then if we just have no answer and make ourselves feel bad and make the person who wrote the email feel bad, everyone's just gonna feel bad. Don't set the expectations at all here. Just read these.
Episode 65, everyone's just gonna feel bad. Travis Woodside writes,
Hi, Travis.
While there have been a few comments about Far Cry 3 here and there during your progress cast, I feel that we, the readers, have missed out on an official statement from Idle Thumbs on how you feel the title compares to Far Cry 2. For some reason, I was totally expecting a press release detailing the official Idle Thumbs statement when Far Cry 3 was first announced, but I'd settle for a brief comment, which you'll get. We promise.
I feel it's.
I'd also be interested in your take on Clint Hocking moving on to Valve. Do you expect Half-Life 3 to feature Gordon Freeman popping pills to stave off disease? Hold on your butts. Travis.
I feel the title Far Cry 3 is very similar to the title Far Cry 2. They're different. I would say the difference is roughly one.
It's as if they added one to the previous one almost.
It's one different.
One different, the title is one different from the title of the previous game.
I'll be honest and say I'm going to reserve judgment until the game comes out, but
Pretty sure that's the only correct answer.
Yeah. I'm not really stoked yet.
Yeah.
I don't mean to speak for all of us, but...
No, same.
Yeah.
Jake?
There was a tiger, though. Did you see that tiger?
I didn't, actually. No.
Wop, 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 wop. And then a tiger comes at you.
Oh, I thought you were imitating a tiger.
No, I was dubstepping a tiger.
A tiger in a video game trailer does that for sure.
Wop, wop, wow.
That's what it sounded like,
if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah, Far Cry 3 looks like Far Cry.
Does it?
No.
Oh, like Far Cry 1.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And there's that time when there's a guy on a boat with his girlfriend and like maybe gets shot and falls into the water. Like, isn't that in the Far Cry 3
basically
trailer?
Far Cry 1.
Yeah. Anyway, Far Cry 3 looks like Far Cry. That's my takeaway. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's Far Cry 3.
Well, I think Far Cry 2 was so surprising because of the departure from Far Cry 1. You're like, what was the first game? Oh,
Yeah.
what? The
Well, that's,
2?
that's
What?
That's what's funny to me about people who send us questions and are like, "Oh, Far Cry 3, are you guys just like brains exploding out of your head for?" Which is weird to me because I wasn't excited about Far Cry 2 because it came after Far Cry 1.
Right.
I was excited about Far Cry 2 because Far Cry 2 is a game that I like a lot.
Right.
It's not because it said Far Cry in the title. Like
It's kind of what you were talking
the fact
about
that
earlier.
it says Far Cry in the title isn't what makes it good.
Like there's some semantic issues with the tweet from earlier, but you made a tweet earlier that I just saw during the break that was like, stop asking for original IP because you're asking for intellectual property, which means you're asking for a horrible series that just gets transmediated to death and you hate.
Right.
What you want is a nice
Just an original
one-off
idea,
original
like a thing.
game.
Yeah.
You just want an original story.
So that's twofold for me. Like, it's one, it's the notion of, when you ask for original IP, what you're asking is for a game followed by a bunch of sequels. Like when a publisher makes IP, that they're saying we want this to be successful so that we can make a million sequels to it all the time.
Like when they say IP, they're just talking about intellectual property, i.e. the face, the theme, what's on the box, the characters, and what they can do with that.
Franchise.
Right.
So that was one half of it that I think is just odd to me, that people are too many sequels. I want more original IP, which means you just want a bunch more sequels.
What you're literally
eventually.
actually asking for is a weird package.
Right. Then people responded to me and said, well, an IP doesn't have to have sequels. Yeah, technically correct. But whenever anyone talks about an IP, that's what they mean. They mean a franchise with a bunch of things in it.
That's a term that people are accidentally...
Yeah. There's a technical legal meaning of intellectual property that is fine, whatever. But like, that's not how you should be referring to things. If you shouldn't, like...
You don't have to re-copyright Ezio or the name Assassin's Creed every time you make a sequel. Like, you've defined the character, the world that he occupies, the title of the game that he is in.
It's similar
and now you have intellectual property that you can then leverage across multiple lines of business.
Well, that's
true. That's
just
exactly
synergy.
how.
We've talked about this before, though. It's gaming culture lexicon borrowing from business because they get all of their information from marketing.
So that's
dudes.
the second half of it.
which,
it's just you shouldn't be using that.
Can we proliferate?
Just talk about games.
Can we proliferate
movies,
LOB as lines of business? Many LOBs.
Nope.
We should do it. Idle thumbs. We're getting many LOBs.
You're fired.
But yeah, like in
that's a word they use.
In the world of film, people aren't like the skew is not a word. That
Tentpole franchise has become.
Well, you see that in like box office reporting and shit.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. We talked about it on a progress cast. Go check out those progress casts.
But like, if you're excited about a game coming out, just talk about it as a game. Like, don't even say title. Just say the game. Just say it's the game. It's the game.
So we ask you, dear readers, to drop marketing lexicon from your lexicon.
Yeah.
And say, I'm excited for this video game.
Yep. Say that.
Say, I'm excited to manage some lords.
Speaking of which, like in terms of being excited for games as opposed to like titles per se, the guy did ask also about Clint Hocking going to Valve.
Right.
Like, I'm definitely more excited about what Clint Hocking will do at Valve than I am about, any particular name that's on a box in a franchise or whatever. So like that'll be cool to see. I mean, except the irony of that is that we'll probably just never know. Because I feel like whenever anyone gets hired by Valve, they just it's an awesome place to work, so I don't say this to say that it isn't, but it does seem like people
Valve's
go to
public
Valve
face is incredibly
and then
flat.
They just kind of get absorbed into Valve.
When Clint, Clint Hocking's game will come under H in the credits.
We'll know,
you know what I mean? Yeah.
What Clint's working on once the redrawn refresh rates in Steam and the web page scrolling and all that stuff finally stops lagging on Mac. Because I imagine that's what he's going to be contributing.
Oh, for sure.
Probably,
yeah. I heard he's part of the Linux port team. Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
Steam's on Linux.
Yeah, I mean,
that's why they hired him.
Clint Hocking announces arrival at Valve
software. Could there be coincidence?
Right,
exactly.
5 days ago, he tweets his son in front of the Valve sign on
his
Twitter.
Son, Linux Hocking.
So I think the writing's on the wall here.
And
we're all pretty
that
excited.
Wall says Ubuntu.
Well, we all run Ubuntu. Surprised our readers didn't know that. Yeah. So yeah, we're really excited about
all hardware we have runs Ubuntu.
JP today made me aware of a Hannah Montana distribution of Linux There's a Hannah Montana Linux.
Like official?
If you go to Hannah, official on the part of Hannah Montana?
Yeah.
No.
It's not licensed. It's not. It doesn't officially leverage the
But
Hannah
if you go
Montana
to
intellectual property.
like on SourceForge, there is one. You can install a Hannah Montana operating system.
That's good.
Yeah.
So
Did you ever play the Hannah
So why
Montana
doesn't
DS game?
why
It was really
doesn't
fun.
Steam support
Seriously.
that, Valve? Clint Hocking.
What was that tweet I sent you that was like, nice try, Gabe Newell, with your Steam sale, but you're never going to get me to install Windows.
Right.
What the fuck?
Hey, well, you know what's even worse? It wasn't Gabe Newell. It was nice
Gabe
try,
N.
Gabe N.
Yeah,
with your
Gabe N.
Steam sale.
Yeah, nice try, Gabe, and luring me to Windows with your Steam sale.
Well, that
Not luring him to Windows.
yeah.
That person.
Well, nice
is-
try
is,
in lore. Yeah.
is probably correctly. You know, they're like they looked up, gave me on Wikipedia, and
His
like,
history.
Oh, you
it's fun
started
for
off by
Windows
writing the
kernel.
Windows kernel
Oh.
or whatever. Like,
Oh, I see.
One-
To them,
one
this
red-
is
this is just a
this is
long
like a
play.
20
One red
year
string
long
on a wall
con.
Yeah.
led
Meanwhile,
to 2012 Steam sale.
4 days later, Valve announces Steam for Linux.
In 1970 or like 19. What do you think he wrote that?
What, Windows?
80s.
Like 89 or
In
something? I don't know.
1988, Gabe Newell started on the Windows kernel, thinking one day
One day.
I'm going to sell Assassin's
Yeah.
Creed Brotherhood for $4, and the world will be mine.
It's worked actually.
Yeah.
He's probably not moving a lot of copies of Windows, but
No.
No. All right. Well, that was a successful reader.
Did we answer
Thank
that
you.
email?
Yeah. Thanks you. I think it was Travis sent that in. J. Travis Woodside of the new Canon Woodsides. Thank you for your correspondence.
You're
You'll be
welcome. I'm
receiving
sorry, that wasn't me.
an Idle Thumbs cap
Oh, I thought you were going
patch
to cast.
he'll be receiving a podcast.
and correspondence stock.
Don't say this because we're actually sending out real shit to other people that may or may not
Oh, you're
be
not
him.
getting any of those things.
Unless
Might
you
be,
back the
unless
Kickstarter.
there's a Baxter.
In which case, you might get a T-shirt or something. I don't know.
But
how
not
much
a
you-
cap.
No cap.
No.
Not
You'll
even
get a
get
cast. You get PodCap
PodCap.
games.
PodCap games.
What about our Yo-Yo
us.
Kazoo set? No?
The Baboo Kazoo.
The Baboo
Kazoo?
Kazoo. God, we got to make those Baboo Kazoos.
Did we ever talk about Baboo Kazoos?
Amongst each other.
Probably.
No, on the cast we may have.
Yeah.
We want to make Baboo Kazoos. It's just a kazoo that says Baboo Kazoo on it. In like some
It works.
gold
It's a
foil.
working kazoo. Yeah, it's important.
It's a working kazoo. That's what we call them. You know.
You're sort of good old down home American working kazoo.
All right, well, let's go get to work designing the Baboo Kazoo and end this podcast.
That's not what we're actually going to do. I just don't want anyone to get their hopes up.
If you
Yeah.
want a Baboo Kazoo,
Oh, we have a new website now. We never said that. It's blog.idlethumbs.net. It's not the real new website,
well,
but there's stuff on it
IdleThumbs.net
right
probably
now.
just goes to blog.idlethumbs.net at this point.
Oh, it doesn't right now, but I guess it probably maybe will.
It will
by
tomorrow.
12 hours from now.
Yeah.
You're probably reading this on the web on the internet.
You'll
page.
see that the website looks like a blog. It's going to do that for a while, and then one day it's going to be a sick new website, but that'll be soon. That one day won't be that long from now. When you say one day, that's always like when you ask your parents, hey, can we go to Disneyland? Like one day, you're never going to Disneyland. Your parents don't love you. But when we say one day, we love you. So there'll be a new site soon.
But right now there's
Right
a blog.
now, it
that
looks like a
the old
blog.
site, but there's a blog on it.
You'll see that right here, there's episode 65. You scroll down, there's Foamy Carver and Foam Carver. Scroll down a little further. Some other stuff.
Bioshock playthrough.
Bioshock
And you
playthrough.
scroll down a little further, and there's like links to stuff.
Thanks, guys.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Video games.
We've only been wearing socks for a few thousand years, if that, maybe. Who knows?
Are socks really thousands of years old?
It can't be that old. A couple hundred years. They're like 70 years old. World War I, nobody wore socks.
That's true, probably.
God, do you guys remember like 15 years ago before the internet and socks? That was crazy. How did we get by?
I don't know. Now we have shoes that look like socks. And then Master Chief
Yeah,
wears.
now we have gross shoes.
Actually, we don't
We
have shoes that
look
look
like feet.
We have shoes that look like
We have
feet.
socks that look like feet, and we have shoes that look like feet.
We have socks that look like feet.
Yeah,
you can get
even
those
there's
rainbow,
toe
those
socks.
rainbow toe socks, or you can get the big.
Those are my hell. Like I hate socks to begin with. The idea of
man, I
having
love socks.
the idea of having individual socks wrapped around each of my toes is my fucking hell.
They make mittens that look like hands.
Those are called gloves.
Yeah, it's my hell. Imagine a mitten around each of your fingers.
That's terrible. I don't like that. But you know what I mean? It's the same. You're
That's
trying.
just a mitten. That's just what a mitten is.
No, it's a glove. A glove wraps around.
You know
each
what I'm
of your
saying?
individual fingers.
Like,
yeah, toes
you-
are different. They're toes.
you don't articulate
Yeah.
your toes
No, you
to
don't
grab
wanna
and do
see
things to
people's
manipulate
toes.
them.
Unless they're just.
But each one,
You don't want to
Unless they're
see
each
people's
little-
toes.
No, seeing the toe is fine. You don't want their toes to be implied. You want them to either be there or being totally covered up. Like you
Exactly.
don't want the form of the toe to be.
you don't want to see like little Tootsie Rolls inside
that's
of
fucking
like little
gross.
cotton wrappers.
Yeah,
I don't want that. That's gross to me.
it's
I don't
disgusting.
anymore. I don't think that I really cared either way, but now I definitely
Each one of my
care.
toes individually wrapped in its own little sweat cocoon.
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's real, and I like socks.
You're being
I like
funny,
toes.
but I hate
I
sock
I agree. What do you
articulated
mean?
sock fingered things.
I agree. I'm agreeing with you. I totally agree with you.
You're smiling in a way that is a put on.
It's because Chris is entertained by the conversation while also being serious.
Yeah,
Okay.
I really do 100% agree. I don't know how to make you believe me.
Is this just are you realizing that you hate this right now, or is this a thing that you've shared with me for a long time?
I didn't I talk last week about how much I hated Vibram Five Fingers?
Yeah, but that's a shoe.
I mean, those are accepted as a loathsome thing. I know.
Yeah, but that's because people wear them like to the Whole Foods.
Okay, that's not the reason I hate them. I hate them because they gross me out.
But they gross you out because you see them while you're trying to buy like your your
that's
arugula.
not why. When I see the preview picture, like if you were to send me a link to an Amazon page for those, I would be grossed out by seeing the sterile preview picture of them on the screen.
What about like
Right, but I
They're
mean,
inherent- it has nothing to do with fucking Whole Foods. What are you talking about?
I'm just saying you see them like.
Are you trying to tell me why I'm grossed out by something? Is that what's actually
Are
happening?
you
here?
grossed out by like a novelty monster foot?
A novelty?
You know, like a costume, like a weird like beast foot that you can wear. on
No,
your
that's
foot?
entertainment.
Yeah, that's just.
But what if
goofy.
it
not
allows
fashion.
What if it allows articulated toes?
That's fine.
Yeah, if a prosthetic foot is not the gross thing. The gross thing is an actual toe being encased in the fucking gross latex or whatever the fuck a Vibrams is.
I think it's rubber.
Rubber.
It's still gross.
It's totally gross.
Yeah, I don't care.
I can't
about
believe
any
you
of
don't
this
believe me that I find that truly gross.
No, I believe you.
You think you're the only one?
No, I think the vast majority of society thinks they're loathsome.
Yeah. 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 Goddamn right.
That's right.
Well, good. Video games.
Thank God we got that toe conversation out of the way.
I'm just saying be barefoot.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying wear shoes.
Or
This is where we disagree.
Were you just saying you think either be barefoot or wear shoes, but you don't want the toes implied?
Yeah, like in all of life. But in general, what I would tell people is wear shoes.
Or be barefoot and then splay your toes all the time.
What?
Oh my gosh. So when Adam gets his haircut, he if they're not super gentle, that's why he goes to Kermit now. But when he gets his haircut, he has really
That's not a
sensitive
sentence that helped.
he
But
has
anyway,
really
go ahead.
sensitive follicles. And I saw him once getting his haircut by somebody who was pulling on it too hard, and the entire time he was wearing flip-flops, but he was kneading his toes like little fists, like undulating under, and his whole body was rigid like a snake, and his feet were just in these little fists, and they would just like squeeze like a stress ball, and he did that for like 40 minutes, and he does it when he's stressed.
So you're just watching his toes for 40 minutes.
It was the feature of the entire spectacle.
Were they wrapped in creepy mittens?
No, it was a hot out. It was a hot day.
It was a hot out.
It was a hot out. It was a hot day out. So he was.
I call warm days hot outs.
Episode
hot out.
65.
Jaws hot out.
It's a hot out.
Come to Jaws annual hot out.
It's July 25th, 2012, and Chris has given up hope. I'm Sean Vanneman. And you say I'm Jake Rockin. You say I'm Chris Remo. And I go,
It's July 19th. It's July 19th. It's July 19th, 2012. No, I'm good.
It's the 65th.
More like the
2012.
65th. More like the 100th episode. Spectacular.
65th. Our podcast can retire. Retirement age is
Anyway,
65.
thanks. It's been fun.
We're going to Palm Springs forever.